As liturgists and for Cindy and the awesome choir, the usher, everyone, because there's so much that happens that you see, but most of it you don't see. That happens for us to be able to come and to worship here. And so I just want to say that we recognize that and we appreciate it. And so thank you so much to everyone. Let's go to God in prayer. Lovely and gracious God, may the words that I say, may they not be my words, but your words that are pleasing and acceptable to you. Amen. So church, when you have been in a difficult or challenging situation, have you asked yourself, how did I get here? And I don't necessarily mean physically here, I also mean emotionally here. How did I get here? How did I get to this place? Or we may ask ourselves, what did I do to end up here? And there may be moments in our lives when we find ourselves in these questionable and challenging situations, especially when other people are involved. The times that we ask ourselves, well, what am I to do? What am I to do when my heart says to think or go this way, but my mind says, no, you need to go this way? Have you ever been there? Or perhaps some of us are even there now at this moment. When we are nudged and we get that inkling that this just doesn't feel right. This place that I am right now is just not good for me. Or we feel like there needs to be more. That we really need to change this. But we hesitate to move or make the changes that we know we need to. We hesitate to do what we need to do, knowing that it's better or for our good because it's the unknown. We already know where we are. We already know that place that we're in, whether physically or mentally. We may even recognize it as being bad or unhealthy. Yet, we'd rather stay in that than to move, because to move is to move into the unknown. You see, if we stay where we are, we already know what we have. We already know what we're dealing with. And we would rather do that than to deal with the challenge of going in an unknown direction or in an unknown place. For some of us, the struggle comes down to asking ourselves, how do I know what to do when I don't know what to do? Right? For some of us, it's being able to take back and step back and to know that we have to ask ourselves, what do we do, especially when things seem out of our control? And when other people are involved, and we find ourselves not able to just rest and have a sense of peace. Our joy is not there. And our happiness seems impossible. What do we do when yet again shootings and murders are occurring so frequently that, like someone asked me a couple of days ago, Vonshelle, is this now our new normal? Is it? And then we hear the scripture lesson this morning in the book of James in verse 27, where James tells us to keep yourself unstained by this world. All of the verses that were read this morning, that one seems to truly capture the essence of what is so desperately needed, especially today as people of faith. Rather than get caught up in the politics of today, or to be distracted by the divisive behaviors, or those thoughts that separate us to where we don't see ourselves as sisters and brothers, rather than focusing on our struggles and challenges, which for some of us may mean reclaiming our own happiness and joy, and for some of us it may mean continuing to stand firm and to stay encouraged, but rather our focus every day, every moment is to keep ourselves unstained from the world. Now, unstained means spotless, To keep ourselves abstained from this world means to not allow these negative and outside influences, whether they're situations or even people, to not allow them to come in and to cause us to react and to respond negatively. That's what it means to be unstained from the world, those people, those things that are within us and around us. But how do we do that? How do we do that? And I think it begins first with remembering the message of the cross. You see, the message of the cross is that of hope. The message of the cross is what tells us that no matter what is going on, there's hope. So being unstained in this world is to remember it, to reclaim it, to embrace hope. Regardless of what we see and what we feel, hope. That is what helps us to remain unstained from the world. For the cross is actually a twofold expression of love. Twofold. So the first is the cross represents God's ultimate expression of love for us. God sent God's Son, right? We know that. We've heard that, a lot of us. To die for us, and through his death there's eternal life. That's our hope. That there's eternal life. But the second part of that twofold message of the cross is that Jesus' life, the way Jesus walked and talked and moved, the essence of Jesus' life, time and time and time again, showed us what it means to love. He walked with those who were considered unlovable. He sat down, literally sat down next to those considered unworthy. He physically embraced those that society considered outcasts. See, all of his actions from his birth to his death, the resurrection, and after were based on love. Keeping ourselves unstained from this world is to choose love. To act and speak and to do those things through the unconditional, never wavering, compassionate love of God. And when other people are with you and hear you, they too will see and they will experience that same unconditional, welcoming love of God. But how do we do that? How can our actions show that we choose to love? Well, the first thing is to understand and live out what Jerry read for us in verse 1 from the scripture reading. To understand that everything we have, everything that we have, everything that we receive is a gift from God.
Amen.
Everything. Now, saying that, that means whatever happens to us, both the good and the bad, is truly a gift from God because they are opportunities to see and feel the expression of God's love. Amen. And so when others are involved, which tends to be the challenge for most of us, right? When other people are involved, you're waving your handkerchief, I see you. But that's the truth, right? It's like if I could just live in this world by myself, I'll be all right. But we don't, right? So when other people involved, it's even more of a challenge, right? Well, here's the thing. When we find ourselves in those challenging and questionable situations, when we don't know how and what to do, what path and what journey and what road to take, that's the time for us to stop and to pause and to ask God, show me how to love. Show me. God, show me how to love. Show me how to love when a guy brutally murders a woman in his parents' home in Port Orange and creates heartache for her 7-year-old son and a painful loss for that family. Show me how to love. Show me how to love when that same guy who committed the murder lives in our subdivision. 2 streets away. And people are coming up to me and calling this guy every single thing you can think of. Show me how to love. Show me how to love when that same guy, days later, his death of an apparent suicide, and people are rejoicing because he killed himself. Show me how to love. Show me how to love when hundreds of people are at an event in Jacksonville, laughing and playing and having a good time, and someone shoots and kills a few people and wounds many more because he lost a game. A game. And now the town is, and the city is in chaos and they're panicking. Show me how to love. Show me how to love when we're driving around and we see what we call tent cities, where we see the homeless, maybe their home as they know it, see the police or hear about the police later moving them along, telling them they gotta go, so they set up another tent city somewhere else. And yet we drive by and see this happening. Show me how to love. Show me how to love. God, show me how to love when relationships have ended. When family and friends disappoint me, whether it's one time or over and over and over again. Show me how to love. Show me how to love with my hope. When I'm not getting a message across. When my hope seems to have gone away. When the situation in my life isn't the way I wanted or even hoped. It would be, God, show me how to love. Show me how to love when it's so hard to forgive myself. Let alone others. But to forgive myself. And then if I try to forgive those who have hurt me, God, show me how to love them. Those who have hurt and wounded me and caused these scars that I still carry today. Show me how to love them. God, show me how to love when I feel guilt and shame, when I have regrets over the mistakes that I have made. God, show me how to love myself. God, show me how to love in the same way that you love me. Show me how to do that. God, show me how to love when and you fill in the blank. Show me how to love. And then James tells us, starting in verse 19, that while we're searching to love others and also ourselves as God loves, not only remembering the cross, James tells us now what we need to do is to be quick to listen and slow to speak. Have you ever been in a situation where you've experienced something, good or bad, but you've experienced something, you're like, ooh, I want to go tell somebody what happened, and you're in the middle of telling them, before you can finish, they've interrupted, they haven't heard you, they butted in, or they missed the whole point. And you're like, I don't even know why I told them, and I actually feel worse than I did before I went to them. Well, James is saying, look, the key to building relationships, the key to loving is this. Be quick to listen, but slow to speak. Show love rather by being so quick to offer advice or guidance or to talk as though we know. Instead, listen. Listen to what others are telling us. Hear their perspective. But more importantly, create a safe space, a sacred space for them to talk, for us to talk less and listen more. Because it's in our listening that we will know how to respond to love and how to respond with love. And when we speak, we are to be mindful of what we say. Speak with the awareness that our words are powerful. Our words can be the expression of love. Our words can show love in so many different ways. And that same is true for when we speak about ourselves and speak of ourselves. I can't tell you how many times in a week I'll talk to someone and they'll say, boy, I am so stupid. And they just say it like it's nothing. Boy, that was dumb. And we tend to beat ourselves up with our words. Reframe that. Don't beat ourselves up or talk negatively about our own self. Another tip that James offers is to be slow to anger. Don't let anger consume our hearts and rule within our hearts. Instead, release and surrender that anger. Because it's in the surrendering, the act of surrendering is how love comes in and fills our hearts. Because there's the space there for the goodness and for the love to come in and release it. And then he says to rid ourselves of sordidness and the rank of wickedness, meaning be guided by humility. Don't let your actions be ego-driven or motivated through pride. When we are to respond and to show love to others, the ego steps aside, the pride steps aside. Instead, it's an act of humility, an act of service, an act of compassion. And then he says, be doer of the word, not just hearers of the word. Meaning, don't just hear these things, but live it out. Live it. We sing wonderful songs with powerful, powerful lyrics. We say our prayers, but they're all teachings. Once you receive that teaching, live it out. Let our focus be on living as a beloved child of God. And then one of the last things that James says is don't be like that person in the mirror. A person goes, we've done that, right? We go, we look in the mirror, we get ready, and then we step away. And once we step away, we no longer see that person that's there in the mirror. James is saying, don't be like the person in the mirror. Once you go and you check yourself and you realize what you want to do and need to do to be the expression of love, keep that with you. Don't let it be like looking in the mirror and just walk away. And so my sisters and brothers, my prayer for you is as you leave here, think and focus and have the awareness of what it is. Ask God, show me how to love. Not only to love others, but to also to love myself as you have loved me. Amen.
Amen.